All right. Um, I'm going to talk about this real quick as I'm taking a short rest. Here's the situation. This issue with Muslims in the United States or American Muslims, I guess there's a couple of different categories, maybe two, three different categories. You have Muslims, you have American Muslims, and you have indigenous American Muslims. What I mean by indigenous is like, African Americans, whites, Hispanics, Native Americans who have converted to Islam in the United States. Um, the way that they do things is obviously the way that most Americans do things, and we're all American, so our culture or American culture is not the same as, let's say, the culture of, let's say, Saudi Arabia, Iran, or any other country out there. Um, because of this, there's a kind of like you could say a rift within the Muslim community in regards to this kind of stuff. Because, as a Muslim, you, you believe in God, you read the Quran and stuff, but most American Muslims are not fanatical in the sense that, when I say most, I mean most people who are from here who are learning it on a um, you know normal level. Not I'm not talking about the Wahhabi converts or the Salafi converts or even the Shia fundamentalist converts. None of the fundamentalist converts. No, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about people who have either converted or their families were Muslim here and they're just kind of like normal, more secular, moderate type Muslims. The way that they look at the religion is not the same as how people from other countries may look at it. When we read the Quran, we read it as a guidebook, like something to read and ponder, but not, it's not like a book of laws where, oh, do this, do that, this, eat that. There's lots of American Muslims who eat pork, drink alcohol, and date and do all sorts of stuff out there that, from a fundamentalist Muslim perspective, would be like scary. They're like, oh my God, you guys are eating pork and drinking alcohol and dating, and oh, you're not wearing hijab. Okay, well, yeah, all those things are fundamentalist Islamic practices. So when organizations like CARE, for example, come out and they try to tell you that somebody getting fired because of their hijab is like racist or bigoted, it's actually not, because the hijab is a fundamentalist outfit. It's not something that like your daily average normal Muslims before, let's say, the 1979 revolution in Iran, for example, they wouldn't wear, like most Iranian Muslims, even in Iran before 1979, did not wear hijabs. That was like a new invention, kind of, in a sense, meaning that they started wearing it because it became mandatory after the 1979 revolution. But before that, majority of Iranians did not wear the hijab. It was not a cultural common practice, even though it's a Muslim country or Muslim majority country. Anybody who wore the hijab would be considered either a fundamentalist or somebody from a poor family, like a servant type family. So either the servants or the fundamentalists wore hijabs, but your normal, I don't know, like middle class to upper class Iranians never wore hijab. It was not a common practice. So when people like Linda Sarsour come here in the United States, and they represent, a Sharia-based fundamentalist Sunni Islam, and they want to push forward this, fundamentalist version of Islam in the name of women's freedom and feminism. I'm sorry, I have to laugh when I say this. In the name of feminism and all this kind of craziness, um, the Women's March. Linda Sarsour, oh my God, girl, what the hell are you thinking? Seriously. Seriously, come on, come on. Hijab is feminist. Hijab is women's freedom. Please. Anybody who thinks this has to have, they have to have like some sort of mental problem or psychological disorder or something like that, because the reality is hijab is not at all freedom inspiring. I have to laugh again when I say this. It doesn't inspire freedom. It's ridiculous. And in fact, let me tell you a little short story about the hijab. When I was a kid, when I was like a 6-year-old kid, like in Iran, visiting there, this was right after the 1979 revolution. What happened was, me and my mom, we were sitting in the car, which is like called the Iranian Paykan. It's like a national car in Iran. We were sitting there and waiting for my dad to come with some like fruit juices. I think it was like pomegranate juice at the store or whatever. As we were waiting, some crazy Hezbollah-looking guy with a big beard runs by the car, and he starts yelling crazy stuff. He's like, and calling my mom because we were in the car. He yelled at my mom and said, "Hey, whore, why don't you get your hijab on?" So, if the hijab is such a, pro-woman, positive type of thing, and it's all about feminism and freedom and, crap like that, then why would this guy be yelling at my mom, telling her to put her hijab on, because if she doesn't, she's a whore? Really? Linda Sarsour, my friend? My sister? The hijab is a freedom and positive women's march kind of crap. Are you kidding me? Seriously? So, if somebody calls your mom a whore for not wearing hijab, that's considered a positive thing? You actually think that this is pro-woman? Seriously? Please stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to the American public. Stop it. Because people will find out, if they haven't already, and they will make sure that you know about it. Apparently, getting arrested for you and people like yourself, it's pretty normal, commonplace, it seems like, because, this is the same crap that you do in Islamic countries when you want to overthrow the governments, when you want to put in Islamic governments, when you want to make it an Islamist state, like an Islamic state, Sharia law state, which you actually, again, Linda Sarsour, you love that Sharia law. You're talking about how, we're living under Sharia law when, we don't pay interest anymore. Seriously. Stop lying to yourself. Stop lying to us. Stop lying to the American public. This whole, pro-Sharia, pro-hijab, women's march, freedom crap, put this crap aside. Get a real life. Get a real job, actually. Because I don't know, what do you do for work except for running around doing this kind of craziness? Anyways, getting back to reality, and this is what we're focusing on. The reality is that America was founded on a combination of Freemason and Christian values from Europe. European Christians and Freemasons established this country, built this country, and everything that we have, including the technology in it, is related to that combination right there. Replacing that with Sharia law and Islamic systems of government and values will destroy this country, just like it has destroyed Iran, Saudi Arabia, and the rest of the whole Middle East, and any other country that has come under the jackbooted thugs of the Islamic State or Islamic Republic, for that matter. So, if you want to live a free life, as a Muslim or as a non-Muslim, you can't live, in a Sharia-based Islamic state. If you are a real Muslim, not like one of these political Islamists like Linda Sarsour, who's like basically a Palestinian thug, who promotes, anti-Zionism, anti-Israel, anti-America, anti-everything, she promotes all that kind of stuff. I mean, she hates freedom. She wants to live under a Sharia state. She wants all the women here in the United States to don hijabs because she lies to them and says that that's like, freedom, come on. Anyways, put that crap aside. Get real. As Muslims, we do like civil rights, but civil rights doesn't mean that we institute an Islamic state here. That's insane. Civil rights means that like we are treated like everybody else as equals, not as overlords, not as entitled crazy people, but as equals. We have equal rights in getting jobs, we have equal rights in doing a lot of stuff, but we're not superior. We don't want an Islamic state here, and this whole thing, remember the finger thing? don't ever do the finger thing. This finger thing is basically a sign of the Islamic State, or of like basically, all these hardcore Muslims who like, oh, there's only one God. Yeah. Well, that right there, when you do that finger thing, that's a bad thing. Why? Because the finger thing basically signifies that there is no other religion that's acceptable. And that's what fanatical Muslims teach. So if you're, Jewish, Christian, or even other Islamic sects, you're looking into problems because the fanatical Muslims, like, the types that we've seen on TV lately, they support that insanity. In fact, there's multiple pictures of Linda Sarsour, for example, going like this with her finger because she's saying, "Oh, there's only one God." Well, if there is a God or not, and if there is one or more, that's for each individual to decide. That's their business. It's not your business to come out here and try to force everybody into it. That said, let's focus on real, civil rights issues, real racist issues. Now, racism, by the way, and bigotry and all this kind of stuff doesn't happen just from one group. Sure, there might be whites out there, individuals, that may have racist or bigoted beliefs, either on the racial or, religious basis. But the reality is, and this is a real fact, by the way, the most racist, the most bigoted countries out there are actually Asian countries. Asia and the Middle East are the top racist countries in the world. In fact, if I remember correctly, India came in first, and then followed by Jordan, Egypt, I think Iran and different places. So that whole region of Asia is actually very racist, very bigoted, and they're not, friendly towards other groups of people for, if they're different in, race or religion. Coincidentally, the United States, Canada, and Britain came in top 3. In South America, by the way, came top 3 or 4 in tolerance and accepting people of other religions and races. So all that crap that Linda Sarsour says is complete, utter bogus. Bogus. Bogus, 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 bogus. So that being the case, so that brings me to another point. Why do people like Linda Sarsour push this kind of like anti-white, anti-Christian agenda? Why would somebody who's basically like a fundamentalist Muslim who wears a hijab, because the hijab is fundamentalist, by the way, somebody who wears a fundamentalist hijab, who's like Kara's golden child, actually come out and attack white Christians? And why would she ally herself with all sorts of minorities, from blacks, Hispanics, other people, even to, the LGBT, gay, lesbian community? Why would she ally herself with them? Because it actually goes against the group that she comes from, because fundamentalist Muslims actually don't like LGBT people. They hate gay people, they hate lesbians, they hate even black people or people of other races. In fact, if you go to Saudi Arabia, as an example, even in Yemen, they keep African slaves. They still do up to this day. They actually have slaves, something that most people don't talk about. So that being the case, how is she allying with these people who normally would be persecuted by people just like her? Okay, so we need to figure this out. We need to discuss this and have a real conversation, not this, leftist or Islamo-Leftist narrative that's being given out by, organizations like CARE, NIAC, and the rest of the kind of like the, Islamist, Marxist, globalist organizations out there. We don't need that. We need real American organizations. Even if they are Muslim organizations, they need to be real American organizations, not these bullcrap organizations that can represent us. The only organization lately that I've seen that's been pretty good is a new one. It's called Mala. I'm actually, I sit on the advisory board for them. But they seem like a pretty up-and-coming organization. I recommend looking for more organizations like that. So until we, talk again, just ponder that a little bit. Think about, why do fundamentalists ally themselves with leftists against the predominant majority here, which is, the white Christians of European background? Why do they ally themselves against the majority of people in this country? And why do they actually think that minorities should rule over the majority in every single aspect of life? Think about that.